Yeah, you're just going to do this for Sendmail here. You're just going to do the script right here. I just call it sendmail.sh. And quite literally, this script right here is all there is. So that's it. So basically, we start out here with I just wrote it into a script, and you do your stall mutt. Mutt is the mail program where you can check your email on it. And then you need to install Sendmail, which is the mail server. And then you need to install Dovecot, which is the receiving mail server. Right? So Sendmail lets you send mail, and that is your main mail server. This is the most popular mail server out there. Sendmail is. And this is what's going to be your MTA, or your mail transfer agent. This is what sends the mail. And then your MDA, or mail delivery agent, is your Dovecot. All right. And your MUA, of course, is going to be your Thunderbird, Outlook, etc. Those programs where the user receives the mail, or mail user agent. So you got to know that stuff, and that's what these respectively do. Sendmail pretty much comes out of the box working for the most part. So you don't have much to do for the most part on it. Um, and here we just basically start the mail service and we enable it for Sendmail. Then we start the Dovecot one and we enable it also. Imagine that. Yeah, and then some of the things you can do afterwards. You can run mutt or whatever. I didn't even make it run mutt, but you can. I'll show you. I do want you to run mutt. Just take like a screenshot of it or something. But here's where you can actually use this to actually send out emails, and you can tell it where you want to go from. So you can cat, for instance, this file, and we're basically sending this file as the subject, not subject, but as the message body of the email. And then it goes to MailX, which is a special program, -S here. And then we have test host for the subject, S for the subject. And then here is the person we're sending it to. So essentially we're sending the host files to the host file information to the actual root of the system. And this could be any email address. You can actually set this as a mass emailer if you want. Or something. You can basically take a message and then send it to unteamed people through a command line from your own program if you want. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, you could even use it with the PHP stuff you learned from previously last week, right? Use that, pass it in from the PHP, grab it from the database for all the entry of the names, right? And then have it send out the mail based on the command line tool here like this, and then you can mass email umpteen people from a web page. Straight from a database system. Yeah, so consider that too. So there's some implications here what you can do with this stuff. Um, Here's another one here for MailX here, test user mail here, and then we have mark here. So there's your subject. Here's your mark at localhost, and then here we're redirecting this file into be read by this tool. Remember, this means reading versus writing, right? So it's going to read that file into MailX, and so then that becomes the subject body again for that. So two different ways you can do it. Both ways work. Here we're just adding a particular, for root, mark and max as part of the aliases list for email addresses and things of this nature. There's how you can just add someone right on in with the script. Yeah, right, exactly. So there's appending it, and bam, now they're a part of that file, and it's automated. Here, and then we restart the server afterwards, otherwise it won't take effect. And then I disabled this because it wasn't working. I tried, but I'll show you how to hand edit that in just a second. And then here's mutt, where you can do a test for the receiving email part of the server if you have the Dovecot set up. This is a great test for it because IMAP S, of course, is secure IMAP. So it's SSL IMAP, right? And so there's a way of testing that afterwards. Sure, you could test it with Thunderbird or Outlook or something like that, but this is a nice quick right at the command line test. And let me tell you, command line tests are excellent after doing email servers and whatnot for a while now. Anything you can do at the command line where you don't have to switch out, go to a whole nother thing to test it or whatever is nice. You can just test it right there. Right. Yeah, exactly. So you'd have to either go to another computer or a virtual machine into another computer, like basically VNC into another computer to test it, or whatever. Or you have to do where you do client and server on the server, basically like we've been doing, and then test the actual client receiving program with the server on the same computer. But it'd have to be graphical. If it's not graphical, then you have to use something else. So in this case, MUT would be the non-graphical method to do this. So here, right at the command line PAL, we can test it right there. Does that make sense? Yeah, so it just saves you a lot of headaches. All right, so that's kind of how it works. Now, now to show you the horror of the the horror, yeah, of the yeah, like scary, not like something else, whatever is where you're going through your head. Yeah, you can clarify that all you like. We are not going the other direction with that. Okay. Um, now, cookout. All right. So if I do mutt, and it's already installed, it'll come in here and let me know about what email I've received and all this fun stuff. And I can delete email I don't want. I can create a new mail by hitting M. You'll see it here at the top. You see it at the top right here where it says quit, delete, undelete, save, mail, reply, group, help. So if you hit any of those, it lets you basically start writing a message. So I could like say M, for instance, and then I could say who I want to write this to, and I could say to at local root at localhost, for instance, and then the subject, whatever, I don't know, and then you can like start typing your message. Hey man, yeah, man, what's up? What's up? What's up? Shift Z. So you do it's just like VI. It's literally VI. So I hit escape and that's Shift ZZ. So all the commands you'd have a VI. There you go. And bam, there we are. Uh, yeah. I can go through and view them. Hold on. Here, if I want, I can also attach a file with an A here or Y to send the file, send this email. Sorry, abort to CSS attach description, etc. So we can put additional stuff in there at this point. Yeah, right. Yeah. So if I hit Y at this point, it's going to send it. So mail sent. You see that at the bottom here in blue. Pretty cool, huh? So this is command line way of doing this. This is me looking at my message. I just hit enter. Yeah. Yep. Boom. There it is. And I can literally just anytime I want to see one of these. There you go. And I'm just like cycling through them with my arrow key, going through the different emails. So very cool. Yeah. If I want to quit, of course, I just hit Q to quit. I also can delete the emails with D. Undelete them, take them back out of the trash. I can save them. I can reply to them. I can do whatever. But anyways, Q's not bound. So Q there, let me quit, and MUT is closed out. So and then here's the thing. If you have never run MUT before and it's the first time you run it, which is what you guys will encounter, it's going to ask you to create the mailbox. So you hit Y, it'll be yes to the question, so it'll create the mailbox folder inside your directory. Make sense? So MUT is pretty cool. I used to use a different program on IRIX when I was using that Unix version back when, and I'm trying to remember which program it was. Oh yeah, Elm, ELM is what I used to use on Unix. So MUT's a little prettier than that one, but I just kind of used to Elm from back when. But I don't know where Elm. They used to have Elm on Linux, but MUT's probably a little nicer. So it lets you attach files and all that stuff. I can't remember if we could attach files in Elm. So yeah, MUT's probably the better choice of the group here. And so I could do an ls here dash. You see, I got a folder now called mail. Right. Nothing in it apparently. Yeah, nothing in it. Let's see if we have any other mailboxes in here. So no, that is my mail folder there. Also, if I cd into /var ls, and we'll see a few other things right here. If I cd into what should be mail, yep. You see, we get all the different mailboxes for all the users here, and then I can view the mail for a particular user by catting that file. Yeah, making sense? And so this is really important because this is the entire actual email as it is, unencrypted. Not unencrypted, but basically un undeciphered, yeah, in its actual format before it's been read in by the program and been displayed differently. So you'll get everything in here, and this is actually really quite useful, to be honest with you, because you can see where the email originated from. Like, for instance, I can see that the host name on here is this right here. So it's really good. It's let you know where the spammer is coming from a networking standpoint, and who to block for spam on your server. Yeah. You can also reverse the IP address and see if it's actually a valid IP address or not, or if it's a, you know, basically a spammer. Because a lot of times you can't reverse their IP addresses. Because when we're doing DNS, you do the reverse. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So you do dig space dash x space and the IP address, and it should come back with a daggone name. If it doesn't, you got a problem. You probably got someone who's not a very good person. Let's put it that way. But you can see all kinds of information in here: subject, user agent, so on and so forth, what program was used to send this with, and all this stuff. Is this making sense? Yeah. So that's where, now, mailboxes can be in different places, but that's where the automatically put the mailboxes here. There's a couple of different ways to do these kind of setups. I'm not going to get into it, but you could either have it into like a /var/mail type setup, or you could actually have the mail stored in each user account. That's another way to do it for the actual email. And it totally depends on if it's mail dir with a capital M, or I'm not going to get into it, but there's two different ways you can set up your email setup as far as that goes. And you need to use a script to create each account with the user, with the folder or whatnot, if you're going to do it the user-based way. This is the simpler way. This is the way they do it or whatever. Sometimes it's nicer though to have the email directly in the user account, just because then you can just manage it all together in one go. If you delete that user, then you delete their email account and all the other stuff at the same time. Along with their web account, if it's the Apache, going to that user account for the virtual hosting, etc. So a lot of times what they'll do is they'll do the virtual hosting where it goes to the person's account, user account, and also the email and FTP and the, so on and so forth, all attached to that one user account, and then they manage it all as a user account for everything, if that makes sense. So then they FTP in, and bam, there's their email. They can see all their stuff. They have access to all their stuff. Not a bad deal. All right. If you look in here, you'll see a few other things in here too, besides that. But the main thing we're going to be interested in is over in ETC. And you see here, I should be able to grab this and pull this. All right. And I'm trying to remember, is it under mail maybe? Yes, it is. So cd into mail from here. Had to think about it for a second there. And then we have our different Sendmails. All right. Sendmail.mc is the configuration file you guys will edit. Sendmail.cf is the actual configuration file for Sendmail. Sendmail is so complicated that they made a configuration file for the configuration file. Literally. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Yeah, so when they ask about on the test or whatever, what file you would edit, you're going to say like MC and not CF, FYI, because they're going to be like, what one would you logically edit as a same person is what they're basically saying. Um, yeah, see, do not edit this file, only edit the source.mc file. So you wouldn't edit this file. Does that make sense? This file is going to be generated, but this is the actual configuration file. And $ID, etc. Oh, looky here, you start to recognize some of this stuff, right? Yeah. So this thing is pretty daggone complicated. And back in the day, we would literally go in and edit this file. And so this is literally a command right here, co at percent exclamation mark. And so I'm not even going to touch this with a 10-foot pole. I'm not going to touch much of this at all with any kind of pole. But you'll start to see here real quick. And so this is where they're hashing it in order to encrypt it for like passwords and things of that nature. For the mailer table, here's your virtual table, virtual users, etc. You have virtual users also with email. Lets you have multiple domains, emails, all going from one email server, basically acting as multiple email servers. You can do that. The virtual user table and all this stuff, 7-bit pitfalls. But I'm just going to start pushing this down a little further. You got log levels and all this stuff, because I really would like for you to see just how fun this gets. Because this is all basic right here, but then it gets hardcore. And we're not there yet. Yeah, this is what I'm talking about. So you start getting this. And you will recognize a bunch of this stuff, like $, question mark, and things of that nature. And, and so based on what you learn from shell scripting or whatever, you can actually make sense of some of this. But again, it's still pretty complicated. Yeah, exactly. So now you can see why they have the .mc file. There's $1. You guys remember what $1 is. $2, $3, so on and so forth. But this is still pretty crazy as far as that goes. And this is why this is the most difficult server of all the servers I can think of on Linux. This is the most complicated one. Sendmail is also vulnerable to several attacks. This is probably one of the oldest email servers around, and unfortunately it's vulnerable to several attacks. This is not the best email server to use. Sometimes you don't have a choice. Sometimes it's the only server you can use depending on what software you're working with. If you're working with Oracle, they require Sendmail, so you do have to set up a Sendmail server in order to have it working with it. So you really don't have a choice or an option in it. Does that make sense? If you're doing Oracle, you have to set up. If they're doing Oracle 8i, 11i, whatever, that kind of stuff, you have to literally set up Sendmail on here. You also have to have a DNS server. You have to have a LAMP server. It has to have Apache installed. You have to have, several things. And then they install Oracle in there. You make a huge opt folder storage space, because that's what's actually going to hold Oracle itself, the massive database system. And then it literally basically manages all the stuff in the database system for Oracle. So it'll actually store all the email in the database system, all the everything into the database system as a centralized program for handling everything. Back in the day, it was like $200,000 to have like a portal developed with Oracle or whatnot. And so these companies would, pay it and whatnot, and then they could manage all their company through the portal, essentially, remotely. So pretty powerful stuff. But it gets into the reply. This literally directs how the emails are composed and how they're handled and all this stuff. The rules for them and everything are in here, essentially, already pre-written, so you don't have to worry about this stuff. But yeah, this one's particularly nice. So yeah, and it just goes on and on and on and on. But I just want to show you underneath the hood, this is what's going on. So people don't like to edit this file. It's nasty. And that's why they said don't edit this file at the top. They really want you to edit the MC file because that's the configuration file for this configuration file that generates that configuration file that showed you. So we're not going to touch that one. Instead, we're going to say vim sendmail, if only I could spell, sendmail.mc. And this is the actual one here. All right. And then this is it right here. This is the actual configuration file that you would edit. DNL in this file, now this is weird, is the command for commenting something out. So anytime you see DNL, that's like putting a pound sign in front of it inside of shell. They put pound sign in front after it. They don't have to. They did it for the heck of it, just to try to get the idea across that this thing's commented out. But DNL literally means commented out. And then all the other commands mean not commented out. So they're putting a comment out after that command. Don't know why, but anyways, they did. Um, and so these different ones you have right here, like include here, etc., and so on and so forth, and version, and OS type here, and you can basically bring features in and out by uncommenting the. Yeah, I don't know why. I don't know why. I noticed that too. I'm guessing. I'm guessing that's what the deal is. They want to make sure that there's no possibility for problems. It's probably what the deal is. Yeah. Um. So. Well, if you're doing define, typically in programming, what this means is the first part here is going to be the variable, and then the next part is going to be the contents of that variable. So you're defining. It's like doing a define in like C or something like that would be C programming language would be a constant variable, and basically the value never changes. It's more optimized than doing a regular variable because the value can't change. So since it's being like cut, it gets pre-processed, so it's processed before the rest of the program is even computed. So I'm not going to get into that stuff, but it's typically what it means. It's probably a little something different on this, but I don't know all the details on it. I don't typically use Sendmail. I use Postfix because it is a better email server. It's more secure, it's faster, it's better, it's easier to configure and set up than Sendmail is. And it's made by IBM. It's not going away, and it's getting more and more popular. But I'll tell you right now, it's not vulnerable to some of the attacks that Sendmail is vulnerable to. You have better blacklist control where you can block hackers, spammers better on Postfix than you can on Sendmail. You can have a live updated spam list basically for a Postfix. You can't have that for Sendmail. You need to use Spam Assassin to eliminate spammers, whatnot. And you can get books on Spam Assassin. Dovecot would be what you use for receiving email. In order to get rid of viruses through email, you install ClamAV, and then you would need to actually set up the virus checker to actually scan the email as it comes in. I did that in Postfix. I don't even know how you do that in Sendmail, or if you can. I would hope you can, but I don't know if you can. But on Postfix, I set up ClamAV to actually scan the emails to make sure that there's no viruses coming in, and I also set up a bunch of rule sets to automatically identify spam attacks, so that it automatically categorizes certain types of emails with poor, basically composed emails, because most spams are poorly composed emails, and you can identify them right then and there and block them immediately. And I do that a lot too with Postfix. So I have this massive rule set that I set up and everything as far as that goes. I don't know. Dovecot is what you're going to use for receiving the email. There's no books on Dovecot, period. None exist. No one's ever written. As far as I know, there's no books ever written on it. I've looked all over Amazon for the books on it and whatnot. It just does not exist. So you can get books on Sendmail and Postfix, but as far as your receiving mails, you can't get anything on Dovecot at all. Courier is the other one for receiving email besides Dovecot. Dovecot is the faster, better one out of the two of them, but Courier is easier to set up and use than Dovecot is. So, some people will choose Courier if they have a small email server, because then they don't have to worry about it. If they only have like 300 employees or whatever, you can use Courier. You'll be fine. But here's the problem. If your company suddenly grows a lot, guess what you're going to have to do? You're going to need to swap from Courier to Dovecot to handle that. So we're going to be doing Dovecot here and whatnot. I'm not getting into Dovecot. I'm sorry. I'm just not. I've messed with it. I've used it, and that's what I've used when receiving mail. But I'm not getting into it. But yeah, you can see some of the stuff here, and basically anything you uncomment becomes live. So if you need to set up certificates for mail here or whatever, server keys, etc., for your SSL security. So on and so forth. Here's the virtual user table here. It's going to get hashed and all that good stuff. Of course, you do want to hash all this. Hashing makes stuff go fast. So it's like a super speedy database access table, if you will, is what hashing does. Hashing a file. So it makes really fast lookups. Really fast. So hashing is great. So that's why they're hashing all this stuff to make it super fast. It also, by the way, you can plug this stuff into like MySQL. That is way beyond this lecture. But you can actually use MySQL to store your email and your email lookups and stuff like that. And you might be going, okay, well, what do I care? Well, because it will actually let you do, like, so say you install just like Sendmail or something like that with Dovecot on it, you might be able to handle a few thousand users, email users, right? You put it into MySQL with it or whatever, you're going to handle a few 100,000 users for email. So you're talking about a gain of like 100 times faster by using MySQL with it. So if you need to do a large email server, that's what you do. You set up with MySQL. You set it with a database because it's way, way more efficient and way, way faster. Because databases are fast. They're designed to be fast. They're very good at what they do, and there's really nothing faster than them. And that's why we have databases for all this stuff out there. That's why you see. I mean, that's what Oracle is about. It's what DB2 is about. And if you're on a budget, you can use MySQL to do it. Make sense? The setup's way more complicated, by the way. Like way more complicated. But yeah, and see, this is why you need to know what an MUA is, MTA is, and MDA is. Look, they refer to it mail from MUAs that authenticate. So you have to know that means basically Outlook or Thunderbird. We're talking about a mail user agent. You have to know what that is, and if you don't, you're gonna be totally lost on a lot of this stuff. So something I just want to point out. And of course, Sendmail is going to be on port 25 because that's SMTP, right? So Sendmail is your SMTP, whereas Dovecot is going to be your POP3 and IMAP4, right? Including your POP3S and IMAP4S, or secure, or SSL, or it's encrypted. Make sense? Okay. All right. And so there's all this stuff. Oh yeah, I was looking for something. What line am I on? Probably way past it. Sorry. There was this one thing. It's daemon. You know what? I'm gonna grep it because that's the easiest way to do it. Yeah, daemon options and for a particular port. What? Yeah, not that one. There's several of them. I gotta get the right one. This is the one right here. So this one by default will not be commented out, and I did it already for you. Stupid thing. Well, it could be in a different place on your file, but on this one it's 118, which sounds about right. Basically use grep to find it. and you're just going to do daemon options like this, and it'll pull up all the, grep space dash n space. I'll do the grep here in a bit, just to help you find it. But you'll notice something here. Here's the address. And if I comment this out for name for MTA, this will actually allow it to receive email too. So by commenting this line out with a DNL, this also lets it receive email. So I do a DNL like that in a space. So believe it or not, that matters. And that's something you need to do as part of this. Okay. So, and of course this is loop back here. And port SMTP, which is port 25. And MTA is mail transfer agent. So we're just basically turning this off so it doesn't do just MTA. It does, sending and receiving email. Let's put the DNL in front of it. And this came straight from your lab manual booklet for what they wanted you to do. So. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it's going to end up going to Dovecot though. It's going to go through Dovecot for receiving the mail, but we have to set it up to where it can allow for mail to be received of Sendmail, and then Sendmail uses Dovecot in order to receive the mail. That's the way Postfix does it too. So yeah, that one was important. And then I'm at the end of the file. Escape, Shift Z. Of course, I can't edit it because it doesn't matter. I already had it commented out because I was a student and not root. So yeah, you need to be root, right? But if I was to grep this real quick, with the dash in right here, and I said, what was it, daemon options, right? I believe it's an underscore. I think I get it totally right, but I don't care. I'm not going to go for it. So I'm just going to do this right here. So I don't even have to worry about trying to get it right. Yeah, it didn't like my sed command, so I don't know what I did wrong. Did something wrong. Oh, come on. Is it daemon options? Okay, like that. Okay, space. And then sendmail.mc. Alright, so then it comes up with all the locations of where these lines are, and bam, there's 118 there with the whole good old right, exactly. Yeah, that's why you want to use grep, so you can find what you're looking for. And then besides that, let's look at a few other things real quick. Virtual user table, and then we also have some other stuff too. But this is the other one I guess that really matters. And then this is where you can put in your virtual users in this file. There's like nothing there. Assuming I didn't make a mistake when I was typing it. Did I misspell it at all? I did misspell it. I spelled out virtual instead of just virch user table. My mistake. I was like, that doesn't look right. Okay, now it looks right. Whew. I was like, something ain't right here. Something's not stirring the Kool-Aid. Blah blah blah. All right. HTML old sayings there. And you got everything. A domain-specific form for aliasing, allowing multiple virtual domains to be hosted on one machine. So essentially, you can make this act like several different mail servers. So this file kind of matters, okay? Because then if you have this set up, then you can basically have this act as several different mail servers, thus allowing. So you get all these different websites, right? And then they have where you can have your own email account and stuff like that. This is what they're doing, dude. They're just popping into the virtual user table. They get this one email server going. They make it the super mega email server, right? And then they just create virtual users, or virtual domains in here inside the virtual user table. Makes sense? You do that with your LAMP, with your FTP and SSH, and ta-da! There you go. There's your online hosting service. Seriously, with a database system, MySQL, of course, that's LAMP. Makes sense? So this is essentially how you basically have a whole, business. That's what they do, and so you can, set all this up in here. The user for the original address is passed as %1, allowing for at foo.org to be %at example.com. So, and it just all gets mangled in there. And then you point it the DNS to the mail server here, and it's the yes. Oh yeah, oh yeah, it'll be in the video. It's the projector's projecting on the edge of the screen there. I can't control that. But basically, this gives you an idea. You can set this up, and it just goes over your different things like virtual user domain with a virtual domain file, and masquerading domain file, and they just go over all this here. And then at the bottom here, you could put in your entries if you liked, whatnot. But with all these comments in it, it basically gives you a write up about how to go about it or whatnot. And this is how you do it. So I thought I'd point this out because this is a rather important file in the real world, and this is something you would mess with and use here, okay? So, but yeah, as you can see, it's not difficult to set this up. See, pretty simple, really. And then, hey, there we go. So that was the virtual user table. The other stuff, you can I'm catting the access file right here. Pow, there it is. And so by default we allow relaying from a host, so you can determine who you want to allow relaying and not relaying. Gotta be careful with relaying because spammers can use this to send out spam from their email server through your email server to another email server. You're like going, well, why would they do that? Well, because their email server is already on the daggone blacklist for being a spammer, but yours isn't. And so right. And so then the email comes from you, and guess what happens to your email server? It gets on the list for being a spamming server, and then you get blacklisted. And then you have to work to get your name off the blacklist. And yes, spammers love to do that. So your servers will become the target of spammers to spam other people's servers indirectly. And they'll have this huge email list in which they're going to spam with and everything. So that matters. You gotta block those jerks as fast as you can, and they'll just pump as much email. I've had them do it to me. Daggone it. They had like probably 100 computers. They were pumping email through my computer. We were getting about 1,000 emails per second on that with about 6.5 megs. And I had to end up just blocking. They had so many daggone servers, IP addresses that they were spamming us with that I just literally blocked the whole ISP, like the whole telecommunications for that region of the world. I just blocked the whole thing because it was so ridiculous. I was like, dude, this could take months just for us to, block every daggone IP address that they had because they just had so many computers that they were using. It was out of Taiwan. It was out of a location in Taiwan. And we turned it over to the FBI and all that. I don't know if they did anything or not, but I traced it down. I traced it back to where they were. All the servers are in the same location, Taiwan. So they all trace back to the same spot. I geolocated them and all that stuff. What's up? As a what? DDoS? I'm not sure. Denial of service? Is that what you're saying? No, it's not the same as denial of service. Trust me, they had my server at 100% capacity from an email they were sending through because they had so many daggone servers they were sending to emails sending to my server. And it's amazing. I didn't realize just how much email just even the most crappy server they have on Amazon Cloud could actually handle. Because we had the weakest one they had, and that thing was processing 1,000 emails per second. That was 6.5 megs. I mean, their pipeline is so fat on Amazon that I mean they can just receive tremendous amounts of email, and they were using it to spam Yahoo. Is what the deal was, Yahoo users and everything. And so I'd literally turn it on, and before I could even yeah, they were spamming me before I could even get my server fully set up. I'm not kidding you. That's how I mean these guys. Once you're on the internet, dude, they looking for fresh blood. I'm not kidding you. So I had every day on security thing in there you can imagine. Literally, after 1 second of having the server up, they'd start spamming me. They were just like looking for my server to go up. I'm not kidding you. So I did stop them by blocking their whole ISP, and that's what did it for me. And so I just wouldn't be able to, receive email from that location in Taiwan, which is like basically half their country. But because they only had I think a couple major ISPs in their country, but I don't care. With that was such a big problem. It's just like we don't know anyone in Taiwan, so it'll be all right. Guess it won't matter. But yeah, just FYI, I mean that happens. A couple other files here: domain, table. Here you go. There's some stuff in there, so if you need to map your domains, etc. And then there's a mailer table. And then you can see some of the stuff for it. We can vim it. Yeah, so I mean, you gotta stop that immediately as soon as it starts happening. If someone starts spamming like that, you gotta stop it, especially if they're doing indirect spamming like that, because like I said, that can get your server blacklisted. So you gotta, it's your responsibility to take care of that. And in reality, you're gonna get spammed every day by spammers. I mean, pretty much, you're going to have spammers trying to spam your servers, and it's just an ongoing battle. That's why I was telling you guys, until you get big enough, don't even worry about doing an email server on the stuff unless you just want to make it, part of your job that you do on a daily basis. Until you have enough, income coming in from enough clients buying, server space on there, don't, you know, set up an email server, do it like GoDaddy or something, and let them deal with it. Or they have or have a team of people 24/7 to deal with it instead of you trying to deal with all the spam, because these spammers will just eat up your time. I mean, you can easily have an Apache server up there and they can't do squat to you. But the mail servers, on the other hand, it's not like you're getting a virus or something like that into your or protecting it. You have to be able to receive email, and the fact that you have to be able to receive email, which means you can be spammed basically, and you can set up all kinds of stuff to help stop people from spamming you. But even so, it's just tricky. You're gonna receive spam. That's all there is to it. There's no way around it, man. Um, so right here, they get forwarding. So they're going over forwarding and stuff like that in here for the mailer table. All right. Other thing, I think I did domain table. Yeah, I did. Trusted users, or just like it sounds like it's the trusted users. It's not gonna be. This will probably make more sense to you as soon as I show you the file. All right. So check it out: Apache, Mailman, Major Domo, Good Candidates, etc. Root, etc. So this is people who can send email to users without warning. So these are like basically they can just send email however they like, and they don't have to go through all the checks and all this stuff. So Apache is one of them. Mailman's another one. Major Domo, etc., etc. And you can add those in there as you see fit or whatever. and that's fine. We wouldn't allow individual users to do this. They wouldn't be considered trusted users. Root would be a candidate for this, as far as that goes. But you can have these different programs or services to do that, if that makes sense. As far as that goes, that's most of it. The other thing I need to show you is the log files, because that's really important, because you'll find daggone spammers in your log file. Um, Speaking from experience, as you're probably realizing here. Let's see here. Where are they? It's hiding under log. So cd into log. Is it logs? ls. Oh, I'm being an idiot. Sorry. /var /log. My mistake. I'm sorry. ls. Alright, so there's your mail log. See that? This is important. It's very, very important. Especially dealing with spammers, because they will show up in this log file. Those are archived already. They're rotated. Yep, they've already been rotated. Okay, now I can look at it. Cat. Yeah, you must be root in order to see this file. Alright, let's cat one of the other ones. 20. 731. And so this lets you get all kinds of information on what's going on with your email server. If you have any errors or problems with your configuration, it'll show up here in the mail log file and whatnot. If you're getting spammed a whole lot, that'll also show up here too. Because you can have the messages. Like I got real detail with my postfix where I was going through and I was showing, I'd be able to follow all the checks and everything that was happening in for every email. And I had a list of checks a mile long that helped stop spam, because those guys were driving me nuts. So, so I had every check you could put in the daggone mail server. I had more checks than any example I could find on the internet, and then some. And so, and what I ended up doing was, because these guys were just hitting it so hard and heavy, I ended up blocking their IP address prior to the checks, so that way it wouldn't bog down my server with processing to filter the emails. So I for them, I was so pissed off at them, I blocked them right at the actual IP address up front prior to the actual checks ever occurring, and thus the email checks never even happened for those IP address range that I put in there, if that makes sense. So that's what I did for that. Any questions on this thing, or let me go over to the. So we just basically went over what you had to do for editing the file earlier on the sendmail.mc file, and then also I went over how to run mutt. So you run that, and then it's just this file here. So there's not much here. After that, I mean, there's really not much left to talk about. So again, yeah, I guess I already talked about it. Yeah, it was mutt-f for IMAP to test the receiving for dovecot. Any questions? I guess really. No? Okay. Oh yeah, I need to probably show you dovecot real quick, and then that's it. Let's call it quits. But that was the what you have to do for an assignment. Type up that script, edit that sendmail.mc file, and use mutt. Yeah, just comment out that one line for the DNL command for the daemon options. Yeah, simple. Yeah, yeah, and mutt. Yeah, and take a screenshot of mutt too for me, please. Yeah, that's it. If I cd into etc, I should be able to find dovecot in there. Dovecot. I'm trying to think. Where did they put it under for Red Hat? I'm used to doing this on Ubuntu. My apologies. Actually, I've done it a lot on Red Hat too. Should know it off the top of my head. Starting to think about it. But I think it's just a folder. Yeah, it is a folder on here called Dovecot. So I thought, okay, Dovecot. Just want to make sure. All right, so here we are, and here's our configuration file for Dovecot. vim it. On Ubuntu, they actually break this file up into mini files, but on Red Hat, they don't, and it's just one big configuration file. Now, this is one big freaking configuration file, and unfortunately, like I said, there's no books on this. Yeah, probably. That sounds about right. Um, so here's where you can set up your different protocols. IMAP, POP3, IMAP S, and POP3S. You can set those up right there. So you can have it support all those. Hopefully, in our case it is, but on my Ubuntu servers it didn't, and then they actually had a bug in it where it was actually not working with the user system, and it was a bug in the program where it was trying to launch the same program several times and it didn't close it out after you closed it out. It drove me nuts. It was a real pain. So I'm glad it's working great on Red Hat. It's just drove me nuts on Ubuntu. And I'd set this up previously on Mandriva back in the day, and it was no problem. Worked like that, you know. So it was really frustrated when I was trying to do it on Ubuntu. I've had no problems doing it on Red Hat ever. So it was a Ubuntu only problem. And Debian, they'd actually fixed the problem by doing a workaround. It wasn't like they fixed Dovecot, because Dovecot had an actual bug in it. They just did a workaround for the bug. And basically you can come through here and configure this thing, but you really don't have much to do on this deal. Oh, this one's short. Okay, they're including other files. Yeah, so there's more than this. It's just they're included through other files. So when you see that include wherever, that's not the actual full configuration file. That's just part of the configuration file. The rest of the configuration file is going to be over here in conf d, like so. And here's your other configuration. That looks about normal. And then each one of these is broken up into the different parts. Yeah, everybody's like, oh no, that's a lot. It is a lot. And there's no book on it too. Fun. And you can basically see where you can include other ones here, other files here, and system auth right here for system authorization, so on and so forth. Password and user database. Now this could be stored in a database system, or it could be stored from files or whatever. And then you can set different options on here for each individual file. So they're doing the same thing Ubuntu does now on this. Interesting. That's probably being dictated by Dovecot themselves, so everybody's just following suit. Back when it used to be this one huge long configuration file, now we don't have to worry about it being that long. But this is where you get into this stuff. And there's just a lot of stuff here. I couldn't even begin to go through this thing, honestly. Here you can set your different mailbox sizes here. It rotates after 2 megs. You can change that to something else if you wanted to, so on and so forth. And this is literally where you go in here, and you can spend quite a bit of time learning this. You're going to have to read online docs for this, because again, there's no book. So you have to go into online documentation and just read and read and read and read and read until you figure it out, type thing. I guess that's, to me, is the most frustrating thing about Dovecot, is just no books on it. I wish the author of Dovecot would actually just write a book and sell it on Amazon. I figured he'd get rich if he did it, because he'd have the only book on it, quite literally. He probably doesn't want to write documentation, which is like most programming developers, they don't like to write documentation. But you can see your different ones, including mailboxes, how they're going to be handled, all that stuff, and you can set it up accordingly. So, does that make sense? I don't want to spend any more time on this. This is, like I said, this is really in depth, and I couldn't even begin to go into it. There's your LDAP. If you want to hook your LDAP into your email, you can. But with that, basically, that is Sendmail with Dovecot, how to access the email, how to set it up and get it going, how to send emails, how to receive emails, all that fun stuff. Make sense? Basically, just do it with the script and whatnot, and pow, there you go. It'll be easy as far as that goes. Okay.